Hey guys, this is Jordan Claude James here. Call me Claude, please. This is my first full body stretching video. I've been meaning to get this out for a little while, but we're just going to get right into it. So right now I am stretching out the front of my calves. The front of my calves is called the shins. So I like to sit here for a second and just kind of just let that set in. Let that stretch in the front. Just really feel that this can be great stretch for people who have who are known to get shin splints. I wouldn't suggest doing this too heavily while you have shin splints, especially while your muscles are cold. I wouldn't suggest stretching any muscles while you're cold, as a matter of fact. As you can see, I'm already sweaty. I just got off of an hour and some change of cardio. So my body is fully warm. I just got off the Stairmaster. Now I'm stretching the back of my calves. Notice that we're starting from the bottom. We're starting from the bottom of the body with the feet, with the stretching out the front of the feet, the front of the legs. And then we're going right to the back, the Achilles tendon, the back of the calf. It's all starting from the bottom. And then we're going to work our way up. I do mix in some upper body stretches in between lower body stretches, depending on where I am at the moment, just based on if I'm on the floor or not. So right after the calf stretch, we should be getting into our lunge pose. I like to take a second in between stretches just to breathe. And what I'm doing, I'm not counting per se seconds, I'm counting breaths, because the more you're breathing, the more you're focused on your breath and taking deep breaths while you stretch, the deeper I've noticed, at least in myself, that I'm able to stretch. So here, we're really trying to elongate that hamstring and on the right side and stretch out the hip flexor on the left side. I haven't been able to get a bunch of stretches in as much as I would like to. I try to stretch at least 2 or 3 times a week. So that's part of the reason why I haven't been able to get these out as often as I can. I'm already in the gym for about 2 hours, and with a full-time job, it's just hard to make these videos sometimes, without being there for about 3 hours. But I don't like making excuses, so we're just going to work that in as often as we can. But the most important thing is that we show up for it. So right after that lunge pose, we got into a hamstring stretch. And then we elongated the hamstring even more so by sitting down and putting that back leg behind us. Now we're going to do the other side. Please do not forget to do both sides of your body, which is why I'm showing you both sides. I just recorded the full stretching routine. I didn't break it up at all. So just so that you could see that I am going from one side to the other before moving on to the next stretch. Again, we're putting that leg out far enough so that I can still get my knee over the toe and still feel that that back leg pulling on that hip flexor. And we're going to get into the hamstring stretch here in a moment. And then we're going to elongate the hamstring as well. The most important part about stretching is that you breathe. You have to breathe. It's just as important as when you're doing cardio, just as important as when you're lifting, when you're stretching. It's the same thing. You got to breathe to really feel the movement, to really feel the stretch, and to get that deeper stretch. When you feel like you have hit a plateau or that you can't stretch out anymore, just remember to take a deep breath while in the stretching pose and see if you can get a little bit further every time. And if you keep showing up, you definitely will. I like to touch the toes on these just to see where I'm at. And it's just a reminder to myself, like right now, like I said, I haven't been stretching as much as I would like, but I can still touch my toes. Maybe next time I can touch the bottom of my foot, or I can touch my toe with my other hand. Which would be harder for me right now, but if I can do it in the future, that means we're making progress. And here I call this I think this is the spider. That's the spider. What I'm trying to do here is really stretch out that hip flexor by putting my leg out in front of me and trying to touch my elbow to that heel that's in front. Another thing to take notice of when I'm doing those lunge poses is that my back foot is resting on the ball of my foot, like so that I can push off of the ball of my foot with some power and further increase the range that I'm able to stretch, further get into that deeper stretch. And here I'm pushing out on my knees with my elbows, getting into what is this stretch called? It's a hip flexor. It's another hip flexor stretch. And at this point, my hip flexors are really stretched. They're not tight. I noticed when I was doing this that my hip flexors were feeling loose. This is yet again another hip flexor stretch where I'm still pushing out on my knees, and you want to get your heels into your body as much as you can, and then push on those elbows. Push on those knees with your elbows. Not gonna lie, this was kind of awkward. I noticed as soon as I was in the stretch that you can't really see what I'm doing because I'm facing the other direction, but I'm in somewhat of a child's pose here, putting my elbow under my body and just leaning on that elbow. And what that does is it stretches the upper back of the arm that is on the side of the arm and that is under your body. I'm using my other arm to stabilize myself while I'm in this stretch so that I don't fall over. This time I actually turned towards the camera so that you can see exactly where my elbow is. I'm reaching across my body as far as I can and just leaning and feeling that stretch. If you don't feel the stretch, don't be afraid to reposition. Move your elbow into a position that's going to, or whatever body part you're doing, just don't be afraid to move your body in a way that's going to help you feel that stretch. And here we're stretching the lats. Again, just reaching across my body until I feel that deep stretch, until I feel my entire back just releasing. And guys, again, these stretches are important because, especially when it comes to lifting, because they'll help you stay strong across the entire range of motion while you're working out. Such as, for example, when you're in a squat and maybe your hip flexors are tight. If your hip flexors are tight, you probably have a hard time getting down into the hole. I call the hole when you're in the bottom position of a squat. And if you have a hard time getting down into the hole, then you'll probably have just as hard of a time getting out of it. And that's where stretching is important. Just being used to going through a full range of motion and being used to being stretched in a certain position. Here, I'm stretching the glutes. This is a great stretch and it's a great stretch for the glutes as well as the knees. I like to pull my leg up to further stretch the glutes. You can hold the wall for balance, as you see there. I almost fell over, but and here we are stretching the shoulders. Stretching the chest, the pectoral muscle, and just by holding the wall and leaning in to the stretch a little bit. I'm trying to turn my body away from my arm as much as possible without hurting myself. That's the most important part with stretching. You don't want to extend yourself so much that you end up tearing something or straining something. Don't be afraid to stay within your limit for that moment, and take your time with this. It's a lifestyle, just like lifting, just like cardio. You come back to this every day and you improve. Don't try to be a contortionist on your first stretching routine. And here we're stretching the quadricep. And what I like to do with this stretch is I like to push my hips forward and extend the quad away from my hips. So I'm pulling my leg back while pushing my hips forward. And you can, as you can see, to stabilize yourself, you can hold the wall if you'd like, and you have a hard time stabilizing yourself on one foot. You can also lay down on your side and do this stretch as well. I'll show you guys that in the next video. In my next stretching routine video, I'll have hopefully a better setup and a little bit more space. But like I always tell you guys, this is the most packed Planet Fitness in probably all of New England. So even at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm still competing for space over here. But I love to see it. I love to see people in the gym, especially at this time. Everybody's putting in work. There's not a bunch of people sitting on their phones and scrolling. People got to get to work. And here again, I'm stretching out the calves again. I love to make sure that my calf muscles are nice and loose, especially after a longer cardio session on this treadmill where I'm putting a lot of emphasis, a lot of strain, and just continuously activating that calf muscle. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe.